And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. And I have to say, happy Prime Day to you. It is day one of Prime for July, and I'm so excited that you all could be here with us. We have great programming coming up for you guys, both for today and tomorrow. So you definitely make sure you guys hit that follow button. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon side, you'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You also will see some of the books. And I say some because she's not only an author, but also a publisher. Some of the books by our next guest. We're excited to welcome back Dr. Norma McLauchlin to our broadcast today. She's joining us with Chosen Pen Publishing, but also someone who's been able to be very passionate about sharing great stories and helping other people share their stories as well. We're going to talk to her about some of the work you guys see in front of us, the forgiveness game. You guys can see it there. I would highlight it for you guys in the carousel, but also one of her newest books that's a new bestseller, The Evolving Roles of Fathers. We're going to talk to her about how that book came along as well. We are simulcasting our broadcast today, so we do welcome those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as well as on Instagram. Hello to you, Living or Existing Apparel. Good to be able to see you over there. If you guys have any questions or comments for Dr. Norma, make sure you guys put those in the comment section. Dr. Norma, thank you again for spending some time with us.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited about this today.
Well, look, I'm excited too. Prime Day is always a hectic, crazy, but exciting time for me. And I think a lot of the on-camera hosts here on Amazon, and I'm excited that you can be a part of this with us. Congratulations. You know, you and I, we talk about so many things, Dr. Norma. We don't really get to talk about Dr. Norma, the author, very much. So I'm excited about being able to kind of separate out all the other hats and just talk about this. Talk to us about this journey for you. You've been able to write fiction like Forgiveness Game, but also nonfiction like The Evolving Roles of Fathers. What has it been like for you to share these stories and to see the response?
Well, basically, I've been doing nonfiction and inspirational Bible studies, all sorts of different writings that I do. I have probably about 50 books out there, different types of books, journaling as well, which is one of my biggest passions is journaling, because I feel that people who journal, it is good a part for mental health, mental wellness, and it helps them find answers for the problems that they have. But I also wanted to finally get into fiction. I've been trying to do that for a while because some of the stories that you tell, people would read, I think, as in fiction. I had more people who have read the fiction than have read my nonfiction. So, I mean, the fiction is the piece that people are like, when is the next book coming out? When, we're going to get the sequel. And I'm going, well, it took me 2 or 3 years to get that one. So it's like, give me a moment to let me get myself back together to write that. But writing fiction is, as we say, is, of course, your examples, and most of it comes from a lot of your own personal experiences. So writing the fiction is therapeutic, I think, more so than writing the nonfiction. Although you're writing inspirational, when I'm writing that, I'm thinking more about who the reader and what it is that they need and what God has given me to give to them, as opposed to getting things out, my personal things out.
Yeah. That's interesting. So when it comes to the telling of stories, right, is that something that you've always known was a gift you had in some form or fashion, Dr. Norma?
Yes, in some shape, form, or fashion. I grew up with a grandmother who was a reading, storytelling grandmother, who at that time had the only library in the Black community in her house, where the bookmobile would come, and every so often they would exchange books. But she ensured that I read books, of all kinds of books. And she would say, read these books, because from here you can go anywhere. So that's the broadening of the mind. But she also said, but you can also take other people with you. You take other people with you by the telling of your story. And that has always been a big influence in my life. And I would always, and people say, why are you lying so much? I'm going, well, it's not actually, because you haven't been there. You don't know anything about that. You're just making up stuff. I said, well, I must have read it somewhere, because I know you know so much because you've read so much. Yeah. And so when you enter a conversation, then all those pieces start to come together, and you're trying to say, well, I really haven't been there, but this is what happened. This is what that's like. And so, but my grandmother, who was a big push for me, she was a teacher. Just a big educational person, reading person, a pushing person. When I graduated from high school, she gave me the big green suitcase and said, please take this wherever you go, but don't keep it at home. So,
Wow. You know, it's interesting. I'm always, when I'm talking to authors, like Norma, and I talk to a lot, I'm always fascinated because I think it does not surprise me that your readers would appreciate the fiction more, because I always tell people fiction seems like a safe space to talk about reality. And because we have fictional names and places and situations, people feel easier to connect with those.
right.
The forgiveness game is an interesting example of that, because forgiveness is a big part of your platform
Yes.
and mantra, but also I think moving on. I love that part of this story too, that it really is about being able to move on, and how we're able to do it even when we're going through difficult circumstances. What has that been like for you to address in fiction, like in the forgiveness game, Dr. Norma, that the ideas that so many people are wrestling with, you're able to put them in a book and show how your characters navigate it?
Yes. Well, my main focus of that book is to try to touch every point of hurt, pain, and talk about the forgiveness piece. We know we have to forgive others. We have to forgive ourselves. We have to forgive our brothers, our sisters, our husbands, our church hurt. So within that book, I've tried to address as much as possible those types of forgiveness issues and let people know that it's a game, because at the end of that game, you need to win.
Yeah.
And in order for you to win the game, you have to forgive.
Yeah. Such a great thing. Rona, hello to you. I'm going to be speaking with you a little bit later. Author Rona D is joining us on Amazon. She says, totally agree. Fiction presents a safe space for most writers and readers. I totally agree with that. And that's interesting. Hello, Melissa. Good to be able to see you over there on the Facebook side. And that's the other interesting thing about this, Dr. Norma, because, I got to know you from books like, The Gift of Freedom. I'm going to highlight it on the Amazon side for our audience there. This is another one of your bestsellers here as well. But now you have your newest book that's a bestseller, The Evolving Roles of Fathers. And I'm not a father myself, Dr. Norma, but I always appreciate books that shed light on us guys in a positive way, because we don't always see that. But also show how a lot of us are stepping up in the different roles we're having to play. Talk to us about The Evolving Roles of Fathers and how it came about, and the very personal co-host you had with that one too.
Yes. Well, the Evolving Roles of Fathers came about through my first visit to Africa, and speaking on the stage about forgiveness. And while there, I was asked if I would come and do some conferences or work with some of the young men in Africa about forgiveness, because their fatherlessness is at, they say, a pandemic stage of the boys who don't have fathers. And they're trying to find a way that will address some of those issues. And so I said, sure, no problem. So we had Facebook groups and all sorts of things that I would talk to them from here and trying to give them some information. I met with one of the teams there and talked with them one Sunday afternoon, and we talked about why they felt the way they feel. But then when I went back to speak again, I spoke on a panel. I was in charge of a panel, a moderator for a panel about fatherless men, a group of men who were fatherless. And in that conversation, and in their conversation with them, the biggest outcome of that was, we don't know how to be fathers. Most of them, if you didn't have a father, you didn't have an uncle, you didn't have a brother, you didn't have anyone to show you or to tell you what you needed to do as a father. So that's why this book came about, because we said, okay, so I said, well, what can we do to make that happen? And so there's nothing there. We don't have anything, because my father was fatherless. His father was fatherless. And I mean, so it went, especially there in Africa, because that's where I was at the time. So it just continued. That's why they didn't know. They just didn't know how to do that. And so I said, okay, so outcome of this particular conversation is that you need a roadmap. You need someone to tell you that something you can go to help you make decisions about how to raise your own children and how to be a better father. And of course, the number one thing is showing love, and to forgive those men who were not in your life. You don't have to see them. You don't have to see them face to face, because most of you never will, because you don't know who they are. But, we went through a letter writing process. We went through a whole forgiveness mantra, and letting them get rid of that particular pain. Wow. So once I could help them identify that pain, then they said, now what? I said, but you got to fill it with love. This whole thing is about love. So once we get rid of that, we dig up that root of hatred, that root of whatever you're feeling, we're going to fill it with love, because God tells us to love. And so you still may not love or you may not like whoever this man was in your life, but we're going to help you move forward with something. And so that something, of course, is this book. And it's, some people realize it and say, well, how can you as a woman write this book? And I'm going, you have a very good point, because I have a father. I grew up with a father. Although my father worked 2 or 3 jobs, so I really didn't have him in my home a lot. But because he was trying to make sure that we were well taken care of, which he did. So, but then I started thinking, I looked at my son. My son, he's an entrepreneur, which I tried to make sure that he was an entrepreneur. He told us he didn't want to go to college because he wanted to make more money than his mom and dad, who had PhD. So, but anyway, but his wife is in the military. Mm-hmm. So he has that job, or his business gave him the ability to be the man of today.
Yeah.
When he's not home, when she's not home, he's home. He can set his own schedule to make sure that he's there for the boys when she's not there. He can set his schedule. It's a blended family. So when the other children come, he sets his schedule so he's home with all of them during that time. He has that time also when he drops them off to school to take care of himself. He goes to the gym. So he has that release that he and his wife, I don't know how y'all manage to do this, but together he tries to make sure that his wife also has what she needs, and they take vacations together. As I said, she's in the military, so she's doing those military types of things. Although my son, he knows what that was as well. But so everything you see in that book has a story. His name is Scott. So the Scott stories are from him and what he's doing today, as opposed to what his dad did, because he grew up in a home, but his father didn't do all those things that he's doing now. Other than he was always there for him for sports, and my son makes sure that all the kids have the sports. But he is what I used as a model for that book.
Right.
And hopefully that the men can read it and see you're not in a different place now. The men are in a different place now. You don't have to live. I mean, your roadmap shouldn't be anything that's in the past. So your roadmap should take you into your child, teaching your child, doing homework with your child, spending time with your child, and teaching them how to be humble, teaching them how to be forgiving, teaching them how to be trusting and loving. So those types of things, as opposed to what parents or fathers of previous generations.
Yeah. And I think for our audience who haven't gotten it yet, and you guys can get the Kindle edition for only 99 cents today here on Amazon, or you can get the paperback like I did. There are case studies in the book too. Like you heard Dr. Norma mention her son, Scott. There are individuals like Mark you'll meet in there, and others who share their stories of what it's been like. She mentioned, of course, her son and a blended family. That's talked about in one of the case studies as well. There's something, though, that's very powerful that's in the book. I want to actually read it, Dr. Norma, and have us talk about it. You say this: as fathers, we have the opportunity to redefine masculinity, challenge societal norms, and model a balanced, compassionate, and authentic approach to parenting. I thought that was interesting, again, with the caveat that I'm not a father myself. I think so many times we look at other people and how they're handling fatherhood, and we think, wow, I wish I had it as together as they have it. I wish I had the time, with my kids that they have, or I wish, I was able to do all the things that this. What has that been like for you through a book like this to show that everybody's situation is different? And it really is just about making the most of the situation you have, to comparing yourself to what other fathers are able to do.
I think, and as doing this, even with trying to compare my son with my husband, that would just totally just went down the drain. I think the only thing that we could probably see that they did together was spending time. He spent some time with him. He spent some time with him when he was growing up doing different types of sports. But again, he was a minister. We had a full-time ministry going. So I'm sure my son felt like he was missing out on some things because we weren't there with him at all times.
Yeah.
But what I think today is that as a father, your father's role is to get to know that child. Your role is to not only, once you get to know him, do not compare him or her to other children. Your child needs his own plan. And if you want to see it like that, but to make sure that you are tender, loving, and caring for that child, and that child knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of that is being a father who listens. You know, we usually have fathers who said, "Do it. Why do I need to do this?" And it's because what? Because I said so.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the answer today, because they can find an answer somewhere else on social media or wherever.
True.
So you need to sit down as fathers and talk to your children. You need to talk to them why you don't want them to be on social media 24/7. You need to explain that to them. You need to explain to them why you would have them to be in school. Because some of our children have told me, why do we need to go to school? Everything I need is here on social media. So there's no need. Why am I going to go to school? This stuff is going to be old. It's going to be obsolete. All the things I'm learning is old, is obsolete. And I'm going, well, what am I supposed to say? Because it's the truth.
Right.
I mean, your books were printed at least 2 or 3. I mean, they were written 2 or 3 years ago, maybe longer than that. And then by the time they're printed and gotten to you, it's already another issue on board. But so, you know, you said, but you need to be there to say, well, okay, this is important because you need to go to school because. Or if you don't want them to go to school, then homeschool them. You can teach them day to day, whatever's happening in the world today. And then you solve that problem. And we have fathers who are doing that. Fathers and mothers who are doing that. And I hope my son would do that, because he has an opportunity to travel all over the country with them and doing the things that they do.
Love that. Hello to you, young Jody. Good to be able to see you over there on IG. Hello to you, Talamika. Good to be able to see you. Another Mississippi in the house. Coach Lakeisha. Good to be able to see you. Spinksman. Good to be able to see you as well over there on IG. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. Of course, it's Prime Day. So, of course, a lot of what you'll see from me today will be about products, things that are on sale, have some really good deals for you guys. But that's not what this segment's about. This is part of our Prime Day conversations we do every year. This is our 4th year doing it, and we're kicking it off with Coach Norma McLauchlin. She's the author of a lot of books and also the owner of Chosen Pen Publishing. We're talking with her, though, mainly about 2 books today, though. The Forgiveness Game, which is a novel you all can get here on Amazon, as well as The Evolving Role of Fathers that she wrote with her son, Scott McLauchlin, as well. Rona says this sounds like a must-read. I'll almost certainly be ordering a copy. It really is, Rona, a great, like I said, it's 99 cents for the Kindle edition. Manswell, good to be able to see you over there on the Facebook side. So what is your hope then, Dr. Norma, when it comes to continuing the conversation? I know you're doing a lot in person, but when people pick up the book, The Evolving Role of Fathers in particular, I'm going to highlight it again on the Amazon side. What do you hope this book does for them, whether we're talking about fathers or, of course, children that may pick up, the young people that may pick up this book as well?
I hope that it will be a roadmap. There is a workbook that goes along with it that kind of asks a lot of questions and assists them with what they're doing, but that they will become better fathers, that they will have information that will allow them to be what God prepared for them to be. He intends for them to be, and that is a great father, to be the father to them that God is to us. And as I said, when the question came about what is it that can be done to help you to be better, to help you to become fathers, the fathers that that you need to be, they said we don't know how. So I hope this is a how-to book that will help them learn how to be the fathers that their children will love. And I mean, they love them anyway, but they will have more interaction with their children. They'll be able to do more with them and help them to grow into adulthood and become the adults that we all want our children to become.
Love that. Again, everyone, Dr. Norma McLauchlin has been our guest. Make sure you guys do pick up these books by Chosen Pen Publishing here on Amazon. There are also other books from the author she's been able to publish as well there as well. Dr. Norma, I appreciate you joining us for Prime Day this year. How can our viewers and listeners stay connected with you?
ChosenPen.com. That's where everything is. Our books and they're also on Amazon. So just look for that. If you don't have any other issues, you can get me at NormaMcLauchlin.com as well. And we will make sure you get whatever it is that you need.
Love it. Dr. Norma, glad you could be with us for our Prime Day conversations today. And looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you. I do too.
All right. We thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon, but we are simulcasting today on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as well as on Instagram. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.